And welcome in, everyone. Bill Rowland here with you at the Capitol Ale House for the George Mason Men's Basketball Coaches Show, of course, with head coach Kim English. Thanks for everybody here coming out and everybody at home watching us across YouTube. We appreciate you hanging out with us, Coach. Second season, second year of doing the Coaches Show. We're glad to have you back doing this again.
Thanks for having me. Really excited to be here again.
Well, let's start off. We'll just do a quick recap. I know you're more of a forward-thinking, you like to look ahead, but let's go look at the first couple of games here that your team has played. You're 2-1 so far in the season. We'll just start from the very beginning. You played an Auburn team ranked 15th in the country when you went down there to open up the season, and you told me, I think it was just a couple days ago, that after looking back at the film and talking to other people, that Auburn was one of the most physical teams, if not the most physical team, that you had ever played against, not only as a coach, but even going back to your playing days at Missouri.
Yeah, no, Bruce did a great job, had those guys lathered up. And I mean, obviously, it's a season opener, a great program. Without a doubt, you know, he was talking about, you know, how good we were supposed to be, you know, how great Josh Aduro was. And I know those guys. I recruited Dylan Cardwell at Tennessee. I recruited Chris Moore at Tennessee. I know those guys were chomping at the bit to take turns on Josh in particular. And they played really well. They played incredible with great fervor and tenacity on defense and rebounding. And you know, that was the game. You know, we didn't take care of the ball, and we didn't rebound the ball, and it was fatal in the sense of wins and losses.
But having your team come out and playing in that type of atmosphere is only going to pay dividends down the road, and especially when you look back at how physical they were, and you know you're going to see teams like St. Louis, like Dayton in the A-10. They're going to play that style, maybe not as effectively, but they are going to play that style.
Yeah, VCU. I mean, it's whenever you can get a quad one game, you need to do it, and it's difficult for us to get quad one games in non-league because of some of the success we had, you know, last season at Georgia, at Maryland, playing Kansas well, playing Washington well, you know, and we have good talent, I think, when we're scheduling and teams look at rosters. So when we do get a quad one opponent to say, yes, we're going to take that game and play it, and it can only help you. It can only help you, obviously, if you can win it, but just the experience gained. I mean, for our young guys, for their first game ever to be in that environment, for Justin, for Devin, for Emeka, it's incredible. And it's, you know, we don't want to be Auburn. We don't want to play like Auburn, but there are some things that they do, you know, that we want our program to be about from a standpoint of physicality, from a standpoint of disruption in moments. They run some flex, we run some flex stuff. So it was a great experience for our group.
What goes into getting a game like that? Obviously, you probably had a little bit of a relationship with their staff from being at Tennessee and then being at Auburn in your time as an assistant there. But what goes into getting that game and making it all work out? Yeah,
well, as we're building our schedule, again, it's always three things in mind. First and foremost, putting together a non-league schedule that will give you a chance to, you know, if you win 10, 11 games, give you a chance to be an at-large team in March. And that requires playing quad one opponents. You know, we're going up against the Big Ten, the ACC, the SEC, where they get 22 quadrant one games. You know, we don't get that many, you know, in our league. So it's good to get those opportunities when you can out of league. And to get it, it requires someone else to say yes. And Auburn did, and we took the game, and we're really excited about it. And you know, we thought we were prepared going in. You know, secondly, you want to play a non-league schedule that prepares you for league play. You know, Mike Brennan and Chris Mooney were college teammates, Princeton. You know, Longwood was an NCAA tournament team from a season ago, picked to win their league again this year. Obviously, Auburn, an NCAA a tournament team that plays a similar style to St. Louis, to VCU. We have some games later in league that mimic some A10 opponents. And lastly, trying to get us to a level of sustainability of a top 50 program where we can get some good games in Eagle Bank Arena. You know, and for us to do that, we have to become a perennial top 50 program where teams won't look at a game against George Mason as a potential bad loss. So that's what we're trying to build it to. You know, it's not my want or prerogative to schedule a bunch of wins, right? I want to, you know, we got our however many bye games, whatever it is, but, you know, we're never going to schedule soft. We're going to try to play opponents that can help us elevate the status of our program.
It certainly has changed from years ago where it seemed like if you just got 20 to 23 wins, you were in the NCAA tournament because people just looked at the wins. You can't do it that way anymore.
No, a lot of coaches have got fired trying to just schedule 20 wins, and you look at the nitty-gritty sheet at the end of the season and it's nowhere near. You know, like we talked about this. I feel like I talk about numbers so much, but we talked about it ad nauseum. Like we didn't win enough games last season, but our schedule was in place. It was in front of us enough where if we would have 2 points here, 3 points here, changed that thing, been in a really good situation to finish in the top 60, 65, whatever. But we finished higher in KenPom, I think since 2012 maybe. So we're on the right track for sure.
Game 2, the home opener against Longwood. You guys pretty much controlled that game from the start. They made a couple of runs at you, but a flurry of threes in the first half of that ball game, and Josh had his first double-double of the season as well. A good quality win against an opponent that you talked about. That they were an NCAA tournament team last year. Griff Aldridge has done a really good job with them down there at Longwood. As you said, they're favored to be one of the top teams in the Big South again. So a nice, solid outing to come back from Auburn.
Yeah, good. I mean, again, a team that is a championship team with championship culture and has played a game in the NCAA tournament just a year ago. So again, really good for our group, really good for them, to come back, bounce back home, and perform more to us. I think a lot of things went wrong at Auburn, and a lot of it had to do with them. But I don't think we were great either. It was us. It was us. I must have missed some things. Why I didn't do a good enough job getting us ready to play at the level of physicality needed. I thought we answered the mark a little bit better the next night against Longwood.
And then less than 48 hours later, and really less now than just over 24 hours from yesterday, the game against American. A little bit sluggish in the first half. You guys found yourselves down by 7. Played a much better 20 minutes of basketball in the second half. What was the difference did you see from that first 20 minutes to the second 20 minutes?
When I watched it last night, it wasn't as bad as I felt it was in the moments. The bad things for me were the 9 turnovers in the first half I thought were bad and unacceptable, and I think that's what made me uneasy. But we didn't do a good enough job guarding the 3-point line. And like I said, post game, give those guys a lot of credit for knocking the shots down. Some of our exhibition games, right, where we were guarding some really, really good athletic drivers to Auburn, really, really good athletic drivers, guys you don't want to be close to. Guys like K.D. Johnson. Some good NBA defenders don't want to be close to him. Like, he's that good of a driver.
Right.
Going into Longwood, some of their guards, really good drivers, not great shooters. I think playing off of guys for 3 or 4 straight games for us kind of bled into American a little bit. And so halftime, the guys adjusted. They were closer to their shooters. There are 8 made threes in the first half, flipped to 3 made threes in the second half, and we were more back to who we were. I mean, we've been doing a pretty good job guarding the 3 so far this season. I think our 3-point defense is like 26%, which puts us at like 59 or 52 in the country.
And you got a nice effort again from Davon Cooper. They must have nightmares of him because he got 5 threes last year against American, had 5 threes yesterday against American, and he really had not struggled, but the shots just weren't going down for him the first couple of games of the season. He got red hot there in the second half.
Yeah, it's all about shot quality with us. Our guys put in the time. Our guys that make shots, they make shots every single day. Shot quality, what range we're getting the shots from, who are shooting the shots, what time in the game are you shooting a shot, and we're very honest. That's a bad shot. That's a good shot. That's a great shot. That's a tough shot. And our guys know they're gonna continue to let it fly.
One of the key questions you had coming into the season was at the point guard position. Ronnie Polite, who's been here since he was a freshman, has seemed to kind of grab the hold of that position. How are you analyzing him through 3 games? He came off the bench against Auburn because he was recovering from an injury. He started the last 2 games. Where are we on Ronnie Polite?
Yeah, he was our starter. He was those 3 guys, Ronald, Devin, Saquon, had a great battle competition back from the summer to now. Ronald won the spot. He was our starter in our first exhibition. He had an injury He came off the bench. No, he did not play in our second exhibition. And so I didn't feel comfortable starting him right away at Auburn against those guys. I didn't want to put him in a tough spot. He came off the bench. Devin Dinkins was sick against Longwood. They'll all three play. Ronald is a starter, and I'm really pleased with him. Again, just something, as we made personnel decisions going from last season to this season, it was just something about his eyes in game that I trusted. When he looked at me, when he spoke to his team, he's a really good leader on his team. And he hadn't been healthy. He has not been healthy in his Mason career until now.
So it's interesting because I think a lot of fans will hear you say there's something in his eyes and his demeanor, and they may not know. It's one of those things that probably only other players or coaches would necessarily notice because they're looking at the raw numbers, what's he shooting, whether it's his assist numbers like. But you guys are looking for more than that.
Yeah, those things matter, right? Numbers, it's a funny part in the movie Moneyball when at the beginning of the movie all the scouts are like, oh, he looks good. He looks good. Man, good looking player. He feels good. So I'm not saying that, but it is. I can look at a guy when he's driving, as he winks in his eyes as he's going to finish, or I can see Ronald going with a clean, focused vision, looking at the rim. I see some of the passes that he makes, right, that are on time, on target. He worked on his jump shot. He's improving. He just has leadership qualities. And he's not 12 assists to 4 turnovers, I think, this season. So I'm really, really happy with where he is of being our PG1.
Let's talk about some of the new guys. Obviously, this day and age in college basketball, where there's the transfer portal, not everybody stays around for 4 years like Josh Oduro has done, or Ronnie Polite now in his 3rd year. Give me an idea of the guys that you've brought in, not necessarily what their game is like, and we can talk about that, but what are they like just as people? Because the fans really haven't been able to see them grow, as you would see a guy coming in as a freshman, and you get to know and follow a guy all the way through his career. So talk to me about some of these guys you brought in.
Great point. And we're very fortunate to, a lot of our transfers, 3 of them now, Deshaun Tickett and VJ, I've spent very close time with them. Our staff, Nate as well, IJ as well. So we're not taking, it's not as big as a gamble as it is on most kids. We know exactly who the person, the student, the young man we're bringing in to join what's very precious to us, is our culture, is our team. VJ I've recruited VJ since my first day in coaching. Literally, my first day in coaching. He was a sophomore in high school at McNeil High School in Austin. Recruited him for 2 years, didn't get him at Tulsa. He went to Oregon. I got to coach against him for 2 years. When he was at Oregon, I was at Colorado. Then when we got the job at Tennessee, his mom called me saying he wanted to leave Oregon and he wanted to come with us to Tennessee. And, we took him. He sat out for a year. We led us in scoring in Tennessee my 2nd year there. And when I left, he decided to stay. And didn't have as good of a season, but is as great of a teammate and as hard as a worker as I've ever seen. And is just flat out talented. And so really excited to see him get to return to form and just be able to play basketball with great freedom.
Had you had a conversation with him when you took the job initially at George Mason about possibly coming with Ticket or no?
No, I would never do that. That's all. It's on the player. If you're not in the portal, I can't have that conversation. Right. So I had conversations with Tennessee players all year just because I love them. Still, I talk to them all the time, but never about that. He wasn't in the portal, so no, that conversation never happened.
All right, talk to me about some of the other guys that have come in. Talk about Saquon. We can talk about any of the guys, just anywhere you want to go through.
Ginneke, who it's a season so long. I mean, from our loss to Fordham, I don't even go back and look whenever we signed Ginneke or Ginneke committed. I mean, it is like every single day looking at, you need a big, you need a point guard, right? Looking at every single name in the portal, looking at video, looking at stats, doing back, and it's an exhausting process where you think after the season you get to, relax a little bit, unwind, do inventory of the season. But the player acquisition process, it's free agency, which is crazy. And it begins the process of microwave dating and recruiting times 10, right? This list of big men, as we want to beef up inside, it's like this many big guys we're looking at. Freshmen, transfers, JUCOs, everyone. And it goes well. He goes to somewhere else. Oh, okay. Who's number 2? So we were at like 10 guys, and then finally we see G, go into the portal. And I think I may have, I was at A-10 head coaches meeting in Naples, Florida, and Dwayne Simpkins was the first one that pointed him out, brought up his name. I'm in meetings, I can't really look at him. The coach sitting next to me, like, almost had G done. Like, he was going to an A-10 rival, it was done.
Wow, okay.
And it was done, almost done. And Nate texts, yo, he's the perfect guy. So I, like, excuse myself and watch film of him and, like, excuse myself from, like, a big part of that day of meeting and just went all in trying to reverse course. And we got him on campus. You know, Dwayne Simpkins has some great relationships, you know, with some people around. He played AAU basketball in Baltimore, and we got to get it done. He is an incredible kid, super smart, graduated from Virginia Tech in 3 years, very committed to his academics, wants to be a doctor one day, and I just love him on the court. I'm looking in today, I'm in the office, like, we got to get him more minutes. We got to get Malik more minutes because I just love when they're on the court. Their size and physicality is so good. Saquon, lastly, in the transfer bunch, again, you know, after the season, looking at a list of point guards, and again, an exhaustive list, and lost out on a bunch of guys going back, but it was very similar to our decision to take Ticket last year. Looking at all these guys with very, you know, can I say sexy on YouTube?
Sure,
yeah,
sure.
Sexy. All these guys with these sexy resumes and games and all that. But it was, you know, their individual accolades and their shooting and their raw talent, it looks good. But then you got to think, how does that mesh, right? How does a point guard that's trying to go get buckets mesh with VJ Bailey, Josh Aduro, Davon Cooper, Ticket Gaines, Justin Fernandez, all these guys that it can really score it and bounce it and play. So Saquon, super humble, you know, talked to people around him. They just raved about his toughness, raved about his humility, you know, his defense, his size, his length, he can play all over the court positionally. And so we settled on Saquon, and really happy he's here. He's figuring out, right, how to play that position for us the way we want to play. And, you know, he didn't play a lot last night against America, and he had 2.5 turnovers in a short span of time. And the way our first half was going, I just didn't have patience for it.
It's funny that you mentioned the microwave dating aspect of recruiting, because that's what I have written down here is in this age of microwave recruiting, I know you're a big proponent of the fit and will guys get along and do they fit the program? How tough is that when your season ends in March and you're trying to get guys signed by, say, July? How tough is that to get somebody in the mix and know, hey, they are going to fit what we're trying to do here? You don't have the years of recruiting them in high school, like you said with VJ, since he was a sophomore in high school. So you've known that. You've known him for 6-7 years. You're talking about maybe 6-7 weeks in some cases.
I know. I was joking with Nate. We're going to run out of Tennessee and Colorado players to recruit next few years. But no, it requires an incredible amount of due diligence, you know, and all hands on deck. You know, when a name goes in the portal and that name enters our staff group text, our GAs are machines, digging up as much data and video and background and social media and contact points, and we go into our, you know, 6 degrees of relationships. You know, it's the power of who. It really is the power of who, right? You can think it's the what, you know, what a player looks like on that database that we have, but it's really picking up the phone and getting to the who. You know, who played against them that we're close with, who coached them that we're close with, who on the staff that he's leaving is going to give us the real. What does his social media look like? Who is this kid really? And in the microwave process of us dating and figuring this thing out, sometimes we walk away, sometimes they walk away. You know, sometimes we don't walk away and they go another that direction. But, you know, it's been good to us. You know, I think if I'm a Mason fan and I see Deshaun Schwartz, Devontae Gaines, VJ Bailey, Davon Cooper, Giannika Ojiako, I'd say the portal's been pretty good to George Mason in an 18-month span.
Yeah, I would agree with that. All right, let's talk a little bit real quick. You got some this past week. some high school kids that have decided that they're going to pursue their basketball here at George Mason. So let's just go down the list here. Austin Ball from West Virginia. Talk to me about his game.
Yeah, love Austin. Was watching a game here at DeMatha over the spring or summer. I don't remember what period it was, but his high school team was here. It had to be June. And I was actually there watching another kid, a local kid, and that we thought we really liked. And the kid had like 4 or 5 bad games in a row. And this was like my last draw. This was like, if he plays bad this game, we're out. And I'm sitting there watching the game, and the game went completely over. And I wasn't even watching this kid. I was watching this other kid from Miller School, from Man, West Virginia, state champion. It was Austin Ball, and he just made shot after shot, and he's long and athletic, and his toughness, I mean, his energy, the emotion that he plays with. That's what I've been looking for. It's what I want out of our current guys, like just to give us more passion, more energy, and he has it. He's the most, one of the most perceptive, intuitive, curious kids I've ever been around. And he can really shoot it. We're losing Davon, losing Victor for sure. So shooting was something we wanted to address. Adding Saquon to that mix, we're also losing great size. So size and shooting, wanting to replace those old guys with young guys and bank on the development of Blake, of Ronald, of Malik, of, did I say Justin. Devin, Emeka, all the guys we've been bringing up now for 1 or 2 years to kind of replace some of the old guys.
Des White, guard out of Missouri.
Same situation, kind of. I was watching this was late. I'd seen him when he played with Mocan as a young guy, but didn't recruit him. I was focused on, honestly, because all my time and energy was going to Justin Fernandez that summer. But he moved to Brad Bill Elite, and we're watching him play local Team Durant and maybe the Sweet 16 or Elite 8 at Peach Jam. And again, he was just banging shot after shot, and he moved well. He could shoot off the move. One of my teammates, college teammates, Marcus Denman, had texted me about a kid from Helias Catholic High School, like way back in the year. And at Peach Jam, I'm looking back through my texts, and it was Des he told me about, and really loved him that day. Watched him the rest of Peach Jam. Again, texted the staff. They went back, pulled up all the past film from EYBL, all his film from high school. Fell in love with him. He had a Missouri offer from the previous staff. St. Louis was flirting with him, and some Missouri Valley and Atlantic 10 offers and interest, and really, really happy to have him. He has great toughness, and again, shooting. He's a really, really, really good shooter. So feel good about losing VJ and Davon, adding Austin, Desmond, and
Rich Barron out of Chicago.
Chicago. Really good shooting, really good size. He looks like the kid.
He's a thick body for being a high school senior, yeah.
I mean, like David Roddy, like that size and physicality. Saw him at Peach Jam 2 summers ago. Went and watched him and went all in, and give Nate a ton of credit for Richard. I mean, that was a long recruitment, and it was all over the place, from Missouri Valley to Big Ten to Pac-12, and he's different. His recruitment went different ways than other ones. Most kids commit in the fall. He ended up commit in the fall, but it was later than we wanted. He visited us in late June, I believe, and he strung the process out. But Nate really stuck with it, and it was really good on our staff, and we really, really wanted Rich. So we had to put our ego aside. I had to put my ego aside when you don't get the commitment when you want it, when you're used to getting it, and I actually talked to some other coaches through the process, and it was a lesson learned. Like you can let your ego get in the way, right? If a kid's not committing when you want them to, right? And I'm not in the business of like squeezing kids, like giving them an ultimatum. I'm just like, hey, if you don't want to come, whatever, we're gonna go a different direction. But I talked to some coaches that were like, they had been in that situation before, And after they let the kid go and they took another kid, they'll say a few years later, I really wish I would have had that kid.
Right.
You know, and we really, really wanted Richard Barron. So we had to go through the process with him and Arizona State, with him and Big Ten interests and Northwestern and all the stuff. And, you know, he chose Mason, and we're really excited that he is. And again, size, shooting, answered those issues.
All right, before we talk about the Paradise Jam coming up, we want to thank the Capitol Ale House, the official host site for the Mason Basketball Coaches Show with head coach Kim English. Only a mile and a half from Eagle Bank Arena, Capitol Ale House has local Virginia-inspired dishes and the largest selection of Virginia-brewed craft beer available with 100 taps. They are Virginia's beer authority here in Mason Nation. All right, next coming up Friday, Paradise Jam. We get to go down to the islands, nice little vacation for some of us, work trip for you guys. First up, Boston College, second Power 5 school in 4 games to start the season. They bring back a ton of depth and experience in the backcourt for head coach Earl Grant, who some of us will remember from the College of Charleston days. But talk to me a little bit about Boston College, what you've looked at so far.
Yeah, they're playing right now. Maine, they're down 53-45 to Maine. The head coach at Maine used to be an assistant at BC, so surely he knows them.
And we know this because you've got the game on your phone, watching it right now to keep track of things.
Yeah,
we should let people know that.
Yeah, they're talented, you know, and again, like us, you know, they struggled some last season, but, you know, they have a year under their belt playing together, you know, understanding what Coach Grant values, and I think they've added talent. They have a really good, I mean, they had a top 25 recruiting class. You know, Chaz Kelly, someone we recruited, Prince Aligbe, some really talented guys with some really good older guys. I mean, really good older guys. Makai, Ashton, Langford, the kid, Bickerstaff, Madsen. So it'll be a challenge. We'll introduce our team to them tomorrow once this game finishes up and Coach Felton finishes making his edit. We'll introduce them to the team, but a really good challenge for us. Really excited about this game.
It's a good tournament because it is going to mimic the A10 or the NCAA tournament where you're going to have to do quick turnaround prep. Last year when we played out in South Dakota, you knew every single day who you were going to play. You knew prior to getting there for the tournament who you were going to play. This tournament, you win Friday, you're going to play Sunday against the winner of Belmont and Tarleton State. So that mimics the NCAA tournament where you win, you move on, you get that one day to prepare. Yeah. The other side of it, if you lose on Friday, you're going to play Saturday. Now, the losing part doesn't necessarily mimic it, but the A10 tournament, you're not getting a day off. You start playing, you go until you win the whole thing or you lose. So it's a good opportunity for your guys, some of the younger guys who haven't been through this, to kind of understand how quick the turnaround is.
Yeah, well, this past, you know, 2-game swing mimicked that. It mimicked the Friday, Sunday, you know, but the difference is we knew the opponent, right? You know, Tarleton State plays Belmont before we play on Friday at 8 here, 9 local in St. Thomas. You know, but it really mimics it because, you know, our staff, our assistants had one. I think Simp has Belmont, Nate has Tarleton State, Dennis has Boston College. So going to have to watch that game, prepare for 2 teams, outcome of the game, prepare for the next. So absolutely, those things are riddled, you know, within a season. So yeah, it does. It's exact to what an NCAA tournament situation would be like.
Talk about the crowd. First couple of games, we had a great contingent of fans go down to Auburn with us.
Yeah.
The student section was pretty good the first couple of games here, first weekend out. Talk to me about what the fan base has been like.
No, the student section has been great. I mean, I feel it from Mason fans. Our passionate fans are as passionate as, I mean, the ones that are here. I mean, every game, they're at practices, they travel with us. The most ardent, the most passionate Mason fans are as passionate as any fans that I've been anywhere in my life, Missouri, Colorado, Tennessee, Tulsa, everywhere. Students have been great in numbers. Love the depth of that student section, you know, how many are there. The next step is standing up. That's the next step. Stand up, stomp on those metal bleachers, right? Make noise, right? Continue to make, I think we have as good of a home court, as a home arena as anyone in our league. And we are working, you know, our butts off to make it that for our opponents. You know, we got to keep, bring a friend. You know, if you need tickets, you can tweet at me on game day. I'll leave you tickets, my tickets. We got tickets. We have tickets. So let's just keep getting better. We'll keep getting better. Let's let our environment, our atmosphere keep improving as well.
12-4 at home so far in your career. It's pretty good number. 75%. It's pretty good numbers to start out.
We got to get some more outside of home.
There you go. You've talked many times about building a program with certain values, certain philosophies. When you meet a player for the first time, how do you know, or what is it, either meeting the player or meeting their coach, what are some of the first things you're asking about that player or to that player to get the first glimpse of whether or not they fit your philosophy?
You know, a lot of times it's just it's super organic. Like it's not what I asked, it's just what presents itself. Like if we start recruiting you and I like you a lot, I call you a lot, you know? And if when I call you a lot, you're in the gym a lot, right? Or you miss a lot of my calls and then call me back because you were in the gym, that's telling me about your work ethic. So I'll never really ask a kid, do you work hard? He'll probably say yes, right? It's how often we call kids, you get the answers from them. When I'm talking to a coach, or I have 2 daughters, I'll ask a coach, you know, if the coach has girls, I'll say, how would you feel if he was dating your daughter? That's a great question because it hits them right away. If there's some pause and hesitancy, it tells you something. If they're right away over the top, coach, I would love it. Right? If you asked me how would I feel if my daughters brought Josh Aduro home, I would be honored. Or Eve Pons when I was at Tennessee, or Deshaun Schwartz, I would be over the moon because I think they're that good of young men. You know, obviously academically, I don't have to ask you anything, right? Email me your transcript.
Right.
I get to see what type of student you are, how much you value academics. So, you know, it's not a peppering of questions like it is the NBA draft process, right? Because they get to choose their players. You know, we like to, you know, we'd like to have you, but you ultimately have to choose us. So it's much more of a relationship process as you're talking, documenting what you talked about, building that database, and our entire staff recruits. Like there's no, Nate was the lead on Richard, but Dwayne Simpkins and Dennis Felton had just as good a relationship with Richard Brand. Yeah, Dwayne Simpkins started Justin Fernandez's recruitment, but everyone. Yeah, Dennis Felton started Elvis Najee's recruitment, but everyone, we all have our hands on each recruit, you know, and their families, because we like to think it's a lot harder to tell 6 people no than 1, you know.
Have you run into the situation where you're talking to a high school coach, and I imagine at big-time programs at DeMatha, Gonzaga, locally, IMG, they send guys to D1 all the time, so it's not a thing for them. But have you run across in your time, whether it's at Mason or Tennessee, wherever, where you're talking to a head coach and you realize, I'm not sure if I'm getting this straight story, he just wants this kid to go D1 because it looks good for him. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And you don't have to get into specifics.
Yeah, no,
you don't have to name names.
No, for sure. Parents.
Okay, sure. Parents, absolutely.
Yeah, parents. Parents all think their kids may be a level or 2 above what they are. And it's natural. I love my little girls. They belong at Harvard and Yale, right? They're that smart. They're brilliant. They're perfect, right? Did I just do what? Yeah. So, no, I feel like coaches are pretty honest. You know, coaches sell their kids. Yes, we are constantly recruited. Man, our phones and emails, you couldn't believe the amount of players in the world that are good enough to play at George Mason, right? Based on the emails and text messages and the videos that we get. And it's our job to do the due diligence and look at all of them and be disappointed a lot, unfortunately. So I haven't experienced as much when I am truly in the gym showing interest and asking questions and really just watching a workout and having normal conversation. Things come up in normal conversation. And truthfully, you can't hide who you are all the time. Right. When you're on that court, you are who you are. Like, I mean, I showed Josh Aduro, there's a picture of him last night in the game as I was watching film. He was given the best eye contact to Nate Tomlinson. I don't know if you can see that. He was giving Nate Tomlinson the best eye contact during the game. And I just seen that watching the game last night, and, like, you can't fake that.
Right.
Conversely, one of our young guys was checking out the game last night, and his body language was terrible. It was, if I'd seen it, he might not have played the rest of the game. That's the stuff I'm looking at when I'm at high school and AAU games, because when the pressure's on in the heat of the battle, you can't fake who you are. You can fake who you are sitting down talking to me on the bleachers after practice, but in a hostile game, and at Auburn, right? Ronald Polite's gumption and nerve and sinew, it is who he is, in the most hostile of situations. So, I really don't, they can say anything, but you see the real.
Staying with recruiting, there's a famous story that ACC coaches have told in the past about North Carolina back when Dean Smith was there. So this is predating all of us. About them showing up in a helicopter to recruit this kid because it was over the top. Nobody else was going to be sending a helicopter to come recruit a kid. Do you have any recruiting stories on the trail? Maybe not necessarily of being one-upped, but just like a random story where I can't believe this is where I am and this is happening to me on the recruiting trail.
No, I think we're creme de la creme. I think Kathy McKay and Brian Dunbar said they were going to get us a private jet so we can do all our recruiting. I think it's coming, right? I think I think Paul Kyle got in on it too, and I think our PJ's coming. So we're recruiting at the highest level. No, I've not seen that. I have some crazy recruiting stories. I was in Argentina watching the U17s in 2019, and after the long trip to Rosario, Argentina, it was a really long line at the rental car place, and it was like 5 or 6 coaches there, and it was one car. And I was like 5th in line, and you can do the math. I'm like, this isn't gonna work. But each guy kept shaking their head. And I don't know what's going on, and it gets back to me, and an Argentinian man in a Spanish accent said it's only one car left, but it's a manual. And I've lived in Italy and France, and I know how to drive a manual. So I was like, I win, right? And I got in my Peugeot, I think it was, and all 5 of us coaches were pucked in, and I dropped them all off at their hotel. And that was a great recruiting trip I got no one. I didn't get any of the kids I was there to see. So, yeah.
When that was at a right side drive or a left side drive?
No, it was right. It was normal. It was normal driving.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm not sure I could have driven manual on the wrong side of the road.
Shifting with the left hand.
I don't even know which to clutch, which one. I don't know.
Probably a good thing that wasn't it then.
Yeah.
So, before we get to some fan questions here, once again, we want to thank Capital Ale House, the official host site for the Mason Basketball Coaches Show with head coach Kim English. Only a mile and a half from Eagle Bank Arena, Capital Ale House has local Virginia-inspired dishes and the largest selection of Virginia-brewed craft beer available. With 100 taps, they are Virginia's beer authority in Mason Nation. All right, Coach. I haven't read these, so these are going to be a surprise for both you and me at the same time. Okay? Tom says, in what ways are Josh and Peter the most similar, and in what ways are they the most different? I think I know part of this answer, but I'll go ahead and let you answer it.
They're similar in surname.
That's about where it ends, right?
Yep. They are different, and they're different. They're different. Josh is very perceptive and calm and quiet and, aware and smooth and great feet. Peter is a bull in a china shop. He's wrecking house. He is the most physical player I've ever been around. And I love him for it. And I think he's going to be a great player for us one day, in a different way than his brother's greatness, right? And Josh's strength and strong and tough and incredibly resilient, right? We put a heavy load on his back last season, and he handled it famously. But they are similar in their last name and their love for their mother and father.
What was that recruiting? Obviously Peter had known you for the last year or so, yeah, with Josh being there. What was that recruitment like?
We had just lost a game, and Peter was playing Donda Academy over at the St. James. And I just went to a game with his mom and dad. It's one of the few times I can go to a game with the prospect's mom and dad. And We had just lost, I don't remember who it was, but it was off of a defensive rebound. And Peter played very low minutes. He didn't get a lot of minutes on his Virginia Academy team. But, I mean, when I tell you rebounding, he could have played at Auburn for us. I mean, he was absolutely annihilating people on box outs. And that's one foul that I am good with. I have no problem on box out fouls. And we took him. That was it.
There you go.
And I called him. I told him I was offering him a scholarship. He started crying. I started kind of crying. And I said, "Are you committing?" He was like, yes. And that was it. It was a great recruitment.
Do they get into it any more than any other two players during practices and stuff?
I try to keep them together. I try to keep them on the same team. But Peter does not take it easy on Josh, and Josh does not take it easy on Peter. You wouldn't know they were brothers in practice.
It's interesting you mentioned about you're okay with getting the fouls on rebounding, because I think you guys had 2 or 3 the other day.
That's okay.
In the rebounding. And I thought about that when I was doing the game. I said, well, this is obviously from Auburn. You're like, you don't care what happens.
We've never cared.
Just clear somebody out.
We've never cared. And it's legal. I mean, it's a very physical game, and especially that's one part of the game that is physical. We box out. They're legal. It's nothing dirty, nothing malicious. We box out physically, and we had, for the most part, we did a pretty good job of that last season. Auburn was something we hadn't seen in a while, and it was good for us. It was really good for us.
All right, next one from Brian Dunbar. He says, we seem to have started slow in the first 3 games. Do you agree with that? And if so, should you or we, the fans, be concerned? And if so on that, how do you address it?
Auburn, we did start slow.
The Longwood's pretty good start.
Longwood, I don't feel like we started slow against Longwood. I don't remember a slow start. We obviously started slow. I mean, it was even. It was 6-0. They made 2 threes. The game got to even pretty quickly. It was back and forth. I guess in short, no. I mean, I'm not concerned, about it. We obviously want to get off to good starts. We got a layup first play of the game against Longwood. So, yeah.
Okay. And last one from Joe. He wants to know, which of the wins were you happy with most over the weekend, the Longwood victory or the American victory?
Both. Both. I mean, we talk about the slow start, right? Would you rather a fast start and a slow finish, right? So, it was great adversity. It was great for us to learn, and again, like I said, they did a good job making some shots and proving some things to us. We have such depth. We've played some funky lineups out there, just trying to see what it looks like this time of the season, trying to see who can play with who. We have 3 really, really good 5 men that are playing really well for us. So a little bit, I take the blame for that. But most importantly, the guys responded in pretty good fashion in the second half. I think 46-24 in the second half was the second half score.
You've talked about, and we'll wrap it up with this, you've talked about last year the team not having the depth that you wanted to build with. You just talked about having 3 very capable 5 men, with obviously Josh and Malik. With this depth that you have, will that rotation at some point get shortened down? Are you comfortable playing 10, 11 guys?
Yeah, I mean, it has to. It has to, right? We either have to extend ourselves defensively more to play that many guys, or it's going to have to strain. It's going to come down to the competition and practice. And I'm very honest with the guys. Like, they know I have no fear not going deep into my bench if I don't feel great confidence in you. So we had a very candid discussion yesterday after the game of what that looks like. It looks like a pretty contentious level of competition and practice every day to take minutes, right? If it's Blake Jones versus Emeka Naji, if it's G versus Malik, if it's, if Justin Fernandez is wanting to take some of Davon or VJ's minutes, right? If Blake wants to take some of Ticket's minutes, like, I'm all about the competition. I just know it's going to make us better. I do like the direction that we're going in the minutes, and pulling guys for some of the egregious errors. But I think the rotation will settle in the next few days, next few games. Sorry.
That's head coach Kim English. The next coaches show will be back here at the Capitol Ale House on November 28th. Next game for the Patriots coming up this Friday at the Paradise Jam against Boston College. Coach, thanks for hanging out. We appreciate it. And
thank you.
Folks, if you want to get tickets, George Mason fans, you can come out and rock with us at Eagle Bank Arena when the Patriots will return home November 26th versus Queens. That's the Saturday after Thanksgiving. All ticket offerings are available, including prorated season ticket packages, our 3-game pint glass series, mini plan, and single game tickets. For more information or to purchase tickets, call the ticket office at 703-993-3270. Once again, for head coach Kim English, I'm Bill Rowland. Thanks for coming out, and we appreciate you watching here for the George Mason Basketball Men's Coaches Show.